Everyone, I want to welcome you to the Allegheny County Jail Oversight Board meeting. We're going to begin by calling order. So first things first, Councilman Katina.
As always, I am Councilman Katina's designee, Bethany.
County Executive Rich Fitzgerald.
Steve Polarski for Executive Fitzgerald.
Terry Klein.
Oh, she's on.
Gail Moss. Abbas Kamara. Acting Controller Tracy Royston.
Present.
Sheriff Kevin Kraus.
Jack Kearney for Sheriff Kevin Kraus.
All right, fair enough.
And I'm also here. Beth Lazara.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge
That's
Lazaro.
okay.
Forgive me.
No, that's okay. No big deal.
So
Do we have a quorum?
we do.
We're good? Okay.
I don't have my rules with me. So just generally speaking, everyone that has signed in will be given an opportunity to speak. The board has agreed to limit public comments to a total of 3 minutes per public comment. We will have a timer on, and because of the number of people that have indicated they wish to speak this evening, I will not be reading the public comments. So they are online, but again, anyone who wishes to speak has signed up. They will be given an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. I'd ask that everyone treat each other with respect, give everyone an opportunity to speak and be heard. There'll be no profanity, no swearing, no cussing, no yelling or screaming. If you are unable to participate in this process in a respectful manner, we would ask that you leave the room at this time. So with that being said, we're also going to do a number of things out of order tonight because there are some time constraints that one or two board members have with prior obligations. So we're going to start by taking, we're going to start with the motions? We'll start with the motions. So, Ms. Howland.
Thank you. So my first motion is the same one we do every month. It's a motion to request money from the Incarcerated Individual Welfare Fund to be put on the joint tablet and commissary accounts of every person in the jail. As of my drafting of this motion, there were 1,594 people in the jail, $100 given to each person. That's a total cost of $159,400. I would like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one is, and this one is a new one that you haven't seen before. This is a motion requiring that the jail notify jail oversight board members via email within 24 hours each time the food that is served to incarcerated folks deviates from the posted menu. So as you may know, as we've seen before, the jail posts a weekly menu for all of the meals that are going to be served every day. Very often, and I cannot state enough how often this is seeming to happen, especially lately, is not only are they not getting what's on the menu, I think I spoke last month about the ground up bologna and uncooked looking hash browns that were served when I was there on a visit. But more recently, lots and lots of times that meals are not being provided, but instead what they call emergency boxes or just bologna sandwiches are being provided for who knows what reason. So what this says is that notification will include detailed reasoning for the menu deviation and what food was substituted. So if the menu said they were supposed to get meatloaf, they got bologna sandwiches, we should know that, especially since an overwhelming majority of the complaints that we get over and over and over again are about the quality of the food. We get a menu, there's a menu posted for a reason. If they're not following it, we as jail oversight board members should know that in order for us to do our statutory job and also to hold to account any of our food vendors that we are paying with taxpayer dollars to provide meals to the jail. And if that's not happening, we and taxpayers deserve to know that. So I would like to, I know we need a motion in a second to discuss, but so I would like to first make that motion to approve this agenda item.
Second.
Yeah, I mean, like technically, like Robert's rules, we're not supposed to discuss until we have a motion in a second, but if me answering your question will get a second out of you, I'm on board. Let's go.
I just wanted to know who is going to be responsible for preparing those reports and emails and sending them to us. I mean, we're not going to rely on the food service people. We're going to have somebody from the warden's staff do that?
Yeah, somebody from the
Is that
administration.
the way we're going to do that?
Yeah, because it's something that they know. I mean, I've seen the emails myself that the COs from the pods send to administration, letting them know, hey, this is what happened. You know, we've had bologna sandwiches for 4 days in a row for every meal. Somebody had moldy food. We heard about the suspected mouse in the food from last month. So I just think it's important that someone, and it can be as simple as we serve bologna sandwiches to everyone all 3 meals today because all of the kitchen workers had COVID. Doesn't need to be 10 paragraphs of an explanation, but I think it's important for us to know, is this happening once a month? Is this happening 3 times a week? It seems that it's happening a lot more often than anyone's leading us to believe. So I think this will just, help us do our statutory duty to provide oversight.
Well, one thing that comes to mind for me is that based upon the math, there are approximately 4,725 meals served on a daily basis. And over the course of a year, that equates to about approximately 1.7 million meals on an annual basis. So that would be extremely onerous to send an email, from a resource allocation standpoint. It would be extremely onerous to send an email every time a meal changes. That's a lot. I mean, that's a huge
Right,
ask.
so it wouldn't actually happen that many times because what you're doing is you're multiplying the population of how many people are in the jail times 3 meals a day that they are provided. So really that would be 1 notification, not 4,500 notifications.
Potentially, but then there are also situations where one person might be entitled to a different meal and that meal gets changed for whatever reason. So you're saying it potentially could be more than just 1 per meal.
That's why this very specifically states a deviation from the posted menu. We're not talking about dietary bags. We're not talking about the pregnancy bags. We're talking about the posted menu that is the general meal that is going throughout the jail. I mean, it's as far as I know that the corrections officer's president the other day had to actually buy pizza for his officers because not only were the incarcerated folks not getting the meals they were supposed to be getting, but the officers' cafeteria wasn't set up at all, so they had no food for the officers. So it's not just impacting incarcerated individuals, it's the workers as well. And so if you're worried about the count of that, I mean, it gets up even higher when we're talking about workers, but it's 1 single email that has to happen. If it's happening every day, if they're having to write us 30 emails every month, that points to a bigger problem, and we need to know that.
Motion's been made. Anyone have any further questions? For a second.
Would you agree to a friendly amendment that we get notified, maybe once a week about how many deviations there were on the week?
I would
So that
be
we're not
amenable.
having staff spend all of their time doing nothing but motions?
Absolutely.
But then that way we still have notice by the end of the week?
Yes, I would be amenable to that. Is that an official proposal to amend this motion?
That is an official proposal.
I will second that amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll vote on that, yes.
All opposed? No.
You're the tiebreaker. How are you voting?
No, I'm opposed to it.
Why?
I just explained why. I think it's onerous. I think it's too much to ask. Forgive me. I think it's onerous. It's too much to ask. When you have an organization that is responsible for staffing a facility, taking care of approximately 1,500 plus individuals on a daily basis, I think it's too much to ask.
It's 1 email a week. They say it's too much to ask to notify us when someone dies in the jail.
4 people said no.
Okay, we'll bring it back.
All right, so with that being said, okay, but again, you can't speak out until you're called up for a public comment, so I ask that you respect the process. Thank you. With that being said, we will now go to the Community Corrections Report. Is anyone here? From Passages to Recovery?
Good evening. Kevin Cordsey with Passages to Recovery. Pretty much we've, as you all know, we consolidated programs on April 19th, continuing to move forward with that. We've also added additional peer support agency coming in to provide services for clients. And pretty much everything else is as last month and moving forward.
If you don't mind me asking, how many people do you have in your facility at this time?
I believe as of today, we have 36.
And that is a co-ed facility.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Have there been any issues with having us go to co-ed facility now?
We've had some issues with people getting a little too familiar. And from my point of view, that's a clinical issue. We deal with it as a distraction, no different than spending too much time on your cell phone or not attending groups, but really haven't had anything beyond that.
Another question. Typically, how long, I know you've discussed this each time you come up, but how long typically is the stay in your facility?
Typically 3 months on it, probably on average, 3.5 months.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much, sir. Renewal Center?
Good afternoon, Adam Zach reporting for the Renewal Center. Not much to report this month. In a couple weeks, from the 13th to the 17th, we have our PREA audit, which will take place, that being the Prison Rape Elimination Act. It takes place every 3 years. Last one was in 2019. We're just making sure our facilities, paperwork, procedures, and practices are all up to standard and compliance for the PREA. That's all I have.
If I might ask, what typically is involved in that inspection? What all do you have to do to be compliant, generally speaking?
There's an assessment done on every reentry when they come in to see what their status is as far as PREA guidelines, and making sure all the paperwork is filled out, and making sure the facilities are all up to date and up to standard, like shower curtains, stuff like that.
So is it a one-day inspection?
It's all week.
All week? Okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I missed that. My apologies. Any other questions? Ms. Allen, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Electronic monitoring report?
Good evening. Steve Esline for the Probation Office. Outside of our report that is submitted, there's nothing really new to report, just some highlights. Our numbers are pretty static from last month. I think we were down 2 people from end of month. We had 60 individuals successfully complete the program during the month of April. So that's all I have.
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Does your electronic monitoring stats include the use of SoberLink?
It does not, but we have 3 individuals, all in mental health court.
Yeah, I probably thought I was the only one that was using it. I just didn't know if you included that.
No, I included to a report I sent to Frank, but not on here. No.
Okay, so there's only 3 on SoberLink, and they're all
correct,
mine?
There's 3.
Okay.
Judge Lazare, I don't know what that is. Can you talk about that?
There's, it's to try to monitor alcohol use, so we use it to try to help people get into recovery for alcohol. So there is a TAD device, which is a bracelet that goes around the ankle that can determine if somebody has drank. SoberLink is not that. So SoberLink removes the ankle bracelet, and it's actually used with a smartphone, and so they basically blow into it, and it takes their picture, so we know it's them blowing into it, and then we can also monitor, and it does it at various different times. So it keeps people off of the bracelet, so they don't have to use that bracelet. So we find that it's a little bit more, a little bit easier for folks to use, less intrusive.
Is there a difference in cost?
I think there is. No?
Cost is basically the same.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So,
It's a good program, though, so we've had some good successes with
yeah,
it.
it is. It's about the size of a cell phone.
And that's for alcohol?
Yeah.
Just for alcohol. Yes.
Just for alcohol? Because my question was drugs, but just for alcohol?
Yeah, just for alcohol, and we can set it up, and it calls them when to do it.
Fair enough.
And at the beginning, at the beginning, it calls them all sorts of crazy hours. And once they start establishing a pattern that they're using it correctly, then it starts to taper off a little bit. But it's been really helpful with some of our folks that really struggle with alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. I was unaware of that. I didn't know about that. beneficial. So hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The motion will carry. Old business, Suicide Prevention Subcommittee.
So, Your Honor, the only thing, first of all, good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon.
The only thing that I would like to report pertaining to the NCC subcommittee is that we've communicated with the NCCHC to return back to our jail to do a review of the abatements that we've made on their review that they've done. We're looking at around August for them to return back to do the abatement, so I will advise the board again about when the date will be. I reported that last month, but we still have not finalized the date as to when they will return. So I will advise the board when we make that final determination. And as far as the suicide prevention cells, we're still at 7 within the facility, and we're working to complete 3 more. And that's all I have for the NCCHC report, Your Honor.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Allen.
Warden Harper, so what materials, whenever they come to do their inspections, what materials, like written documentation, do you give them? Is it all the policies, procedures? Is it certain ones? What is it that you give to them?
Whatever they asked us, we provide to them.
Okay, well, that's kind of funny because my question was going to be, can you provide those documents to us? But I know it doesn't always work that well for us when we ask for them. So how can we get the documentation that you provide to them? How can we as board members get that to see that same information?
If it's nothing that I feel as though would jeopardize safety and security, I'm more than willing to meet any board member at a location where they can review any documents they would like to review, as we've done before.
Right, so why do we have to come in and visually inspect them with you? Why can't they be sent to us?
I don't want these documents to be sent elsewhere. So this is a way that I can ensure that it's not sent elsewhere.
But where does it say in the statute authorizing the Jail Oversight Board that you can make that determination?
Ms. Hallam, I think we've implemented this process before, and I think this is the appropriate process to continue.
But before it was certain documentation, and now you're expanding it to be any sort of documentation that we're requesting.
Any documentation that I feel is a safety and security issue.
And do you feel that all of the documents pertaining to this NCCHC are safety and security concerns?
It depends on what documentation NCCHC will be requesting.
Can you give us an example of what you provided to them?
We provided them some of our healthcare policies. Now, some of the healthcare policies that we did provide to them in the past, I would not send to anybody other than the board in a location where they can review them in a location like we did before. But there are some documents that I would not feel comfortable in sending.
I would like to then make the request that you send us the documents that you do feel comfortable sending.
All of the documents that I'm comfortable sending is posted on the website, ma'am.
Okay, so we as jail board members can be sent the same information that the public can. That's your standing on this?
The board can see any documentation, as long as we do it in a location together.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right. Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund report from Judge Lozera.
All right, hello, everybody. We are excited because we do have a report. So we were trying to work with the Pennsylvania Prison Society on having the liaison be basically a subcontractor of the Prison Society. That reached a roadblock where we could not proceed anymore, and that was a unanimous determination of the board and the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund. So we were looking for secondary sources of where we could house this person to be a liaison, because we really think it'll be helpful from both the public perspective, the jail perspective, and this board's perspective. We really believe it will help every person who's interested in this jail. So we were brainstorming, and we came up with the idea that this person could be housed in the sheriff's department, because the sheriff is an independently elected person, and so has an obligation to protect in the courts and in the system as a whole. And so thank goodness the jail liaison will be housed with the Sheriff's Department. That does not mean that the Sheriff's Department controls this person. This person will be controlled by the board. This person will simply have a place to be in the jail so that he gets a salary. You know, we have to have somebody that pays this person. So there has to be paperwork that's done. And so that's where the person is going to be housed. It's going to be within the Sheriff's Department. So we're really very thankful that Kevin Krause has agreed to do that. It's not entirely worked out. What we are doing now is working on finalizing the job description so that it fits. We're also doing research on where we're going to post that job description so that we can advertise for that position. And then we will be going forward with the hiring of this person. So we are hoping to have a motion ready for the July board meeting, which I think is on the 7th. I think it's when it is.
I'm not sure that.
Because I thought. So I think it's on the 7th, and so we're hoping to be able to present that here at this meeting where everybody will have had a chance to take a look at it ahead of time so we can get a total board vote to approve that it would be the sheriff's, to approve the job description, to approve the hiring plan on where we're going to post and how we're going to proceed. So if that all happens, that'll be fantastic, and then hopefully we'll have resumes submitted and we'll be able to get this thing up and running. It's been a long time coming, and we're really excited that it's taken this big step forward. So that is the report from us. In terms of the survey with the Pitt School of Social Work, I have not touched base with Terry Klein. I'm sorry. She has the most pertinent information on that. I know that DHS was reviewing some of the results, and that we need to review that also with our subcommittee. So we'll have to have that going. Is Aaron?
Yeah, Aaron.
Maybe Aaron can update us. I don't know.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Erin Dalton at the Department of Human Services. I did check in with Dean Farmer today. We provided comments back from the county to the School of Social Work 1st of May or so, and then they had a plan to get it back to us and then back to the Jail Oversight Board Subcommittee by June 13th. I checked today to see if she was still on schedule for that. She thought so. She might want to have some formatting things done, taking another week or so, but you should get it in and around June 13th
that's
to give her a little bit of some window on that. But yeah, that's my expectation.
Thank you so much for that update.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
It is, as people will recall, that survey was designed so that we can find out what the needs of the folks that are actually incarcerated in the jail are, and what they think that we should perhaps be spending the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund on. So we can't wait to see that report so that we can make some recommendations to the board.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Judge Lazara? Fair enough. Update on compensation for work performed by incarcerated individuals at the ACJ.
The Controller's Office has submitted a right to know to the Allegheny County Jail for that information, and we just received a 30-day extension request for them to provide that information.
Judge Halsey, I'd like to add that from my office, we also sent formal requests to the administration requesting that same information, and we have not received a response. And this is information, I just want to be clear, it's not just they haven't had time to get around to it yet. This is information I've been requesting for well over a year now. The information that I need to be able to pay incarcerated workers, to be able to show you how much it's going to cost, how many workers there are, all that information. I've just been stonewalled left and right. If you have any recourse, anyone here, or maybe if the warden directly could help me, I would like to know how many hours a day each worker in the jail is working. If you don't know, that is a hell of a safety concern you have on your hands, that you don't know when people are leaving the pod, how many hours a day they're off the pod, when they're moving from pod to pod. That's an issue. So if that's the case, I would also like to know that as well.
Warden, you were working on something in terms of numbers, correct, if I recall?
Yes, sir.
And I actually have reached out to a tax attorney that I've been working with, because I know another concern was how do we pay them, like the payroll logistics of everything, payroll taxes. And so I will, before the next meeting, be providing a report to all of you about how none of those things are an issue. In addition, I have on the way copies of all the collective bargaining agreements of every worker in the jail, since that was a concern that was brought up as well, that this would violate some sort of collective bargaining agreement.
No, not that it would violate the collective bargaining arguing. It's their work. The work that's being performed would be union work.
Then why are they not doing it now?
You could ask that question. I mean,
I know I just did, so if that's the answer,
the unions can lay claim to that work. No, you know what I mean. So you're not paying them now. That's why there's no question. You start paying those individuals, then the union can lay claim to that work. That's their work. It would fall under bargaining work that they perform in other facilities.
Right, that's why I will be reviewing the contracts to see if those job descriptions are indeed spelled out in that way.
I do have a question for you, Ms. Hallam. And what was your, just rough estimates, what were you expecting to pay the incarcerated individuals for the work that they do in the jail?
Yeah.
And where will that money come from?
So that's an interesting question, because so when I originally started this, I don't want to inquest into figuring out how we could pay them, is I thought that they deserved a $15 an hour minimum wage. I think that should be the floor for any worker, regardless of what kind of job you're doing anywhere, whether you're incarcerated or not. Additionally, I think that because most of these folks are pretrial detainees, that also has a 14th Amendment violation that you don't see with the folks who are employed at the state and federal prisons around the country. But I have since conceded to the fact that I would be satisfied with paying them the federal minimum wage, which is the federal minimum wage for a reason. Nobody should be working for less than that. So that's where I stand today, and that's what my proposal will be. But I also would like to leave that up to negotiation after we get the cost. Initially, what I did was I was trying to do a breakdown of, I knew how many incarcerated workers there were. So we did the math for minimum wage, we did the math for $15 an hour, but the missing component is how many hours. I cannot give an adequate financial cost.
Sure.
But while I personally think that the county should be paying all of the county people who are doing work for the county, especially because specifically the kitchen workers are doing work for a for-profit private company, Summit, when they are serving the meals, they are preparing the meals for our food service provider. I think that should be a discussion about, should the county pay for this? Because I absolutely think that we should pay all workers. If we're for workers, we should be for all workers. But I am open to using the Incarcerated Individuals Welfare Fund because it has literally $3 million in it all the time, even when we're given $155,000 every single month out of it to the people in the jail. I think if that's where we have to start in order to avoid any of the BS bureaucratic red tape towards getting this done, that's what we do. But again, I'm open to it all, but we cannot move forward without that hourly information, which is why I feel it is intentionally not being given from any of the avenues from which I've approached and the Controller's Office has approached.
So then would it be your intention to pay them the approximately $15 per hour for the work that they do in addition to the $100 you give them every month?
Yeah, there's only 68 people who are working inside the jail, at least at my last count. That was the last number I got. There's only 68, and we have a population of over 1,550 people. So that's just the money because, hey, this is your money. I mean, remember, the Incarcerated Individual Welfare Fund is not taxpayer dollars. It is the profits made off of the commissary that we sell to the incarcerated individual that they have to spend their money on because the same people providing the food meals are the same company providing the commissary. A company is directly incentivized to providing lesser quality meals so that they have to spend money on commissary. And so the company's getting their profits, but all the profits the county is making off it go directly into this account. And that account, regardless of how much money we're taking out of it every month, goes up or stays the same. As you can see by this report that was given to us of the balance, every year, every 6 months, I can't even tell what the different. But anyways, it's about $3 million that stays in this account despite the fact we've been giving $150,000. Again, without the hours that each person is working, it is impossible for me to tell you how much this will cost, which is why I'm once again begging desperately for information that I am rightfully owed as a member of this board to be given that information.
I just want to correct one thing that you routinely say.
What is it?
The vast majority of the people in the jail are not there pre-trial. That's not a true statement. There are lots of people in the jail that have been sentenced, whether it's there because of a probation violation or because they have been sentenced to time to serve a sentence in the county jail. So I just want to state that. I mean, your position regarding paying the incarcerated individuals, that's your position. I have no argument with that. But you routinely make that statement, and it's not factual.
And I promised Judge Lazare I would work on it. They are unconvicted people. I apologize.
It's not a factual.
What would you call people who are not serving a sentence for a crime?
If they are in there because they have been detained on a probation violation, there was a sentence. They are not unsentenced individuals.
But there are people who are in there on detainers for crimes that they have not been convicted of simply because they caught new charges.
Excuse me, we don't catch charges. If we caught charges, no, catching
I've seen
charges.
people catch charges.
Listen, it's not catching charges. Catching is like you catch COVID, okay? And that means anybody can catch charges.
Anybody can
I'm
catch
not gonna
charges.
catch charges. No.
I
that's not the
caught
way it works.
charges.
It is, you don't catch charges. That's not, I'm sorry, that is not a phrase that we ever use in our courtroom ever, and I will not
What about the
accept it
people
here either.
who were charged with
Catch
crimes and
charges.
not found guilty of those crimes? So what did they do to get those charges?
Still an investigation, Ms. Allen.
Okay, I will rephrase for semantics purposes. If people are in there, you can be detained without ever being convicted of a new crime. As soon as you get those new charges, as soon as you get charged with a crime, if you are on probation, you are now detained. They have not been convicted.
You are not detained in every single case. You are detained when there is going to be a risk to the public, a risk to that person in particular. That's when
Hold on,
people get
excuse me.
detained.
You have to keep the noise on. You can't speak out. There's a process here, and you have to be respectful of that, please. Go ahead, Judge Lazare, I'm sorry.
You know, every single person that has a new charge does not get detained.
I didn't say that. I said the majority, the 95% of the people in the jail are in
I'd
there
like to
on
see your
detainer.
statistics on your 95%.
I will get those to you.
Because
Yes.
I don't believe that you're correct on that. And I
Okay.
think we've been through that before. So I'd simply ask that, those of us who are in the judiciary, we try really hard not to keep people in that jail, if we can. And folks, you can be disrespectful and laugh about that all you want to, okay? But I try very hard on a daily basis to make sure that my folks are not kept in that jail if they do not need to be. But there are times when they need to be.
If there's another outburst, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the room, sir. And I really don't want to do that because I know you want to be heard, but you have to be respectful. With that being said, we'll move on to the update regarding ADA compliance. Warden Harper?
I think we've explained before the process as to how an individual incarcerated in our jail can let administration or our employees know that they're requiring an ADA compliance. All an incarcerated individual have to do is verbally tell us, use the electronic tablets to let us know that they're seeking an accommodation, or they can do a written request asking that to seek an accommodation. So I don't know what else I'm supposed to say pertaining to that.
Okay, any questions about that?
Yeah, we had asked before for the person who handles ADA compliance for the county to come here, since the jail is part of the county, and you had mentioned at a previous meeting there is no specific ADA compliance person for the county, for the jail, but there is one for the county.
But they deal with county employees. They really deal with county employees accommodation requests and accommodations for employees.
So we have,
It's a subject of HR. Now, for ADA accommodations at the jail, it would be the medical provider that would review those accommodation requests.
are they legal medical providers? I mean, because this is a legal issue, not a medical issue as much.
An accommodation is a medical issue.
But whether or not the jail is following the accommodations is a legal issue.
And that's something that I don't think that we need to discuss in this forum about legal ramifications in this forum.
But in the individual in the county is not legal. They work in human resources. That wouldn't have nothing to do with legal. They couldn't answer any legal questions.
Again,
They're just looking at it from a human resources standpoint. Compliance with ADA.
what was asked was the person who handles whether the jail is in ADA compliance to come and speak to us. That was the question. That was the request.
Is that regarding the incarcerated individuals or the staff? I'm just not.
The incarcerated individuals.
So when you're saying there's an ADA request for an incarcerated individual, you want to talk to the person that would handle that?
What I'm specifically concerned with is that I believe that the jail is in violation of the ADA for their tiered system of the ways that they're shackling people to the benches because of a mental health diagnosis. What I'm also concerned with is the potential ADA violation of putting folks with mental illnesses in solitary confinement. What I am concerned with is all the possible ways that the jail could be violating people's disabilities, and who is the person who's responsible for making sure that they don't. That's the person that I want to talk to. I thought that was made very clear that that's what we were discussing, and yet I still haven't heard from that person, and now it seems that no one even knows who that person is.
that person would not have anything to do with how we monitor our tier systems, et cetera, et cetera. As I stated before, Ms. Hallam, we contacted our psychiatrist from AHN, and together as a team, we came up with that tier system. So she would not be the appropriate person to talk about that.
Okay, so to clarify then, I'm sorry, but I wasn't finished. So to clarify then, what you're saying is that once you work with a medical provider to determine your policies, your tier systems, whatever it is, there is no legal review to ensure that you're in compliance with things such as the ADA?
If we feel as though that there needs to be a legal review, yes, ma'am, there is.
I, as a member of this Jail Oversight Board, think that there needs to be a legal review, and it was made very clear at many previous meetings that that's what I was asking for. And
It
you
was
keep
not
beating
made
around the
clear,
bush.
Ms. Hallam.
We talked about it in depth. I have recordings online if you would like me to play them for you.
Well, Ms. Hallam, I'm not going to argue with you.
You always do.
What would you like, ma'am?
I would like, officially, for the record, I would like you to bring in front of the board the person who told you that your policies are not in violation of the ADA. The way that you're handling people with mental health diagnoses is not in violation of the ADA. The way that you're handling people in solitary confinement with mental health diagnoses is not in violation of the ADA. The way you're chaining people to tables during rec is not a violation of the ADA. That's, and you, I cannot talk to him when he's smirking at me like that.
But I thought you said it was a group that makes these determinations, not necessarily an individual. That was, I may be confused.
As far as the tier system, we had a mental
was a
health group, psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health specialists, everybody get together, and we came up with that tier system.
But whether there's an individual that may be harming them, they might determine to be a harm to themselves, and there's a restrictive measure. Is that determination made by, it's not one person?
Psychiatrist.
Yeah.
A psychiatrist makes
Is there
that
one
determination.
psychiatrist, or is there multiple psychiatrists that
Whatever psychiatrist
assigned to
on
the
duty
jail?
will make that determination as to whether or not they're on a tier 4, tier 5.
Can we see a copy of the tier system?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Because that, maybe that's where we need to start, is let's look at the tier system and what it is, and then we can figure out how it's being applied.
But I don't know how many of us as jail board members are also ADA experts, which was the specific reason. I'm sure that the county has someone that is responsible for making sure that the county is in compliance with the law. I am sure that that exists somewhere. I just do not know who that person is. That's what I'm asking for, and I want them here.
And I think that person would be the Human Resources Department, but that would be,
That's employees. I want,
but you didn't let me finish. If you could let me finish. That is the point. When you're talking about employees, HR would handle that from a legal standpoint, right? After a medical evaluation is done. When you're talking about incarcerated individuals, the way in which they are housed due to their mental health issues or anything else would be done based upon a recommendation of a psychiatrist. They're apples and oranges. They're not the same.
I don't believe they are, because you can still violate the law off of a recommendation from a medical professional. What I'm asking is, I want to know who is making sure that the jail is following the law in regards to people's disabilities. So the medical determination is decided by the medical professional. The legal determination is decided by the legal professional, and no one is talking about who the legal professional is to make sure that that's followed in the jail. Not for staff, for incarcerated folks. That's literally all I'm asking, is for that person to come here and tell us that the things that we have been told are happening, from the warden himself, from other members of the administration, what's happening is following the letter of the law, and I'll back off of it.
I'm going to have to research to see who would be the appropriate person to come here to do that, Ms. Howell.
Okay, and they will be here at next month's meeting?
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to research to see who would be the appropriate person. If they're available, I will try to have them here.
Okay.
I can't make them. Okay.
Thanks.
Did you have something, Ms. Royson? I saw you raise your hand. Anything else regarding this issue? All right. The RFP for commissary vendor, Warden Harper.
Your Honor, again, I'm going to have to advise the board that there will be a delay with us posting the RFP for commissary. One of the things that we really wanted to do was to make sure that what the board wanted us to place in the RFP was placed in the RFP. And we've noticed that some of the things that we thought were in the RFP wasn't in the RFP. So we're making some more changes to try to make sure that everybody's suggestions are in the RFP.
So I have a question, and Ms. Hallam made a point. As far as commissary and then the food, vendors, or will that be the same parties? Because that, she made a point that that would incentivize the cooks in the kitchen to prepare food that might be less tasteful, to encourage people to buy things from the commissary. So that is a legitimate point that she stated. So I'm curious, is that the case? Would that be the same group?
No, the two bids or the two proposals are completely separate. The commissary will be going up, as the warden said, as soon as we finalize these adjustments that were requested, and the food contract is up next year, and that will go out as a completely separate independent bid.
Okay, and so therefore, there's no way that the same company could have both contracts?
They're completely separate submissions as far as their proposals, or if it's an IFB, if it's a bid. So
But
they
if,
go out.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but if one's a bid, either you go with the lowest bidder, we're stuck with who it is. It's possible that it could be the same person who's
It could
commissary.
be.
The commissary, depending on how that goes out, is an IFQ, RFP competitive bid, and you're saying RFP, then there's a selection process and a scoring process where you don't have to necessarily take the lowest bidder.
Correct.
But a bid, we're stuck.
Correct.
So it could be the same
It
person.
could be the same person, but the methodology of how it is achieved is
The idea is that by doing it and changing the way we're doing the commissary a different way this time, I understand, not an IFQ, we're doing it as an RFP. The hope is that we don't get the same ones.
right.
Can we speak in like non-acronyms?
Okay. So
Because
request
RFP is a request for proposal as opposed to a competitive bid where you have to take the lowest thing. And then an IFQ is an information, I don't know, I should remember.
An IFQ. So the commissary is going out as an RFP because we wanted to have more control over the specifications as what we're looking for based on the feedback that we've gotten from the board, comments we've received, making sure we address different items and to ensure that we're looking at other variables besides cost as we award it. Request for bid is when they just give us the price and they say this is what it's going to cost you, and traditionally the RFP goes awarded to the lowest bidder.
If I may say something, I just want to clarify for the people who may not have been at any of the previous meetings, there was a concern about things like, I believe, shoes for women. That was an issue. The type of feminine products, well, I don't want to say that, but that was another issue. So there have been a number of issues that have been brought up, and there's been a concern expressed about the lack of those issues being present in the commissary. So those are, we've taken the warden, I guess the warden has taken your input and made sure that with the RFP, those things will be contained in any proposal that comes forward. So that's what I just want to make sure you understand what we're talking about. So that is attributing to the delay is the focus on making sure that those things that used to not exist in commissary will be a part of the commissary going forward. So that is what we're talking about for those of you that were not here in previous weeks. Did you have something you wanted to say?
I have a couple questions, yes. Okay, so you said that one of them has to go to the lowest bidder. Is that the RFP or the RFB?
No, IFQ, a competitive bid
That's
has.
not this.
No, yeah, a competitive bid has to go to the lowest bidder,
Just
not an
wanted-
RFP or an IFQ, a competitive bid.
Okay, and so this is not that, so this does not need to go to the lowest bidder?
Correct.
Okay, so once those, proposals come in, because to me, the lowest cost is whatever is the lowest cost of the person who's incarcerated or their families who's paying for the commissary, but I understand that that might not be how the jail and the county view as the lowest cost or the best deal. And so I'm wondering, how are you going to decide what is the best deal? You get, 5 proposals that all come within the specifications that were outlined in the RFP. How will you choose from that? Like, what are you looking for?
So one of them is menu. What is the offerings to make sure we address the concerns that you guys had with the variety of items that we can have, the healthy items. We also are looking to have those menus include pertinent information as far as, vegan, vegetarian, all that type of information that they need to provide us in advance, as well as from the perspective of providing us photos that they can provide those items to ensure that we can ensure safety and security of the facility. So what we know is coming in is what we're receiving. So that's one of the items that we're going to be reviewing in the RFP. Another one is the commission rate, because that is a factor that is on there. We also are looking at the onboarding and offboarding, so how they're going to transition from one vendor to the other, so there's a seamless service to the population that is using commissary, as well as the transition between the two vendors, and as well as the menu. Oh, and then the price comparison, whatever the cost is of the items. And we have very strict specifications as to how they can achieve that cost, which also one of our requirements is to submit that as part of the RFP, that review and evaluation.
So when every person submits their proposal or bids, they will have the menu prices that they'll be proposing?
That's what we're asking for as far as what they're going to be proposing.
Okay, and so, I'm just kind of curious about like why the commission rate comes into the conversation at all, why that is one of the determining factors, especially because we see that all that money goes into the incarcerated individual welfare fund anyways. So like, is there are you looking for a higher commission? Like, and that's somebody that's going to get picked if they offer the county a higher commission? Because in my experience, when we made this last switch to Summit, that seemed to be what the rationale was, or at least a big piece of it was how much commission the county was making. And so I just am kind of trying to caution, is there any way that cannot be considered?
Absolutely. That's actually the reason we're going with the RFP, because those variables are factored and weighted. So we can weight one of those, the menu, higher than the commissary. We can weight the pricing higher than the menu. So that's absolutely what we are doing, so that we have more control over how we are making this decision. It's not solely based on a single factor like lowest or highest amount.
Okay, great. And then are you at all, not you personally, you collectively, the jail and the county, deciding any of the prices, or is it all going to be they're just going to propose and you're not going to negotiate prices as much?
So an RFP allows us to do that. If we were doing an invitation for bid, we do not have that ability, and that's one of the other reasons that we are going with the RFP in this instance.
Okay, and then can prices, once a contract is entered into, can prices be changed after that?
That would be something that would be done during the negotiation as part of the RFP process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any additional questions? All right, thank you.
Oh, wait, I do have one more thing. Can we review all of the proposals that come in?
No, because any RFP that's awarded is only reviewed by those who are appointed on the RFP review, because it has to be a fair and awarded process.
Okay, so we're gonna have no idea if the county chose the one that had the highest commission prices or the lowest. We're never gonna know that anyways.
I don't know that answer, if all of that's revealed after it's awarded or not. But I can find out what is reviewed after, what is available after an award is made.
And then also, what about the RFB? Is that something that we can review all the bids?
I'll find out that answer too. I don't know if that's made public after it's awarded.
Okay, thank you very much.
That being said, Warden, you were to report the number of incarcerated individuals at the ACJ waiting to go upstate.
As of Monday, it was 42 individuals that we have 300 Bs to be transferred to the state. And on 6/6, 12 of these individuals are scheduled to be transferred to the state.
I'm sorry, Warden, how many?
12 individuals are scheduled to be transferred to the state on 6/6.
And Warden, what are the other 30 waiting on?
Times for the sheriffs to pick them up and take them to the designated facility.
So there's nothing else holding them back. It's purely just logistics of getting them there?
Yes.
With the sheriffs? Okay, thanks.
All right, now is the time for, I'm sorry, did anyone have any questions? My apologies, any questions?
About that?
All right, now is the time for public comments. Again, the board as a whole has agreed to limit public comments to 3 minutes. I ask there not be any insulting behavior, any swearing, profanity. So I ask that you be respectful. We want to hear what you have to say, but there is an appropriate way to convey the information. Your message gets lost when you're less than respectful and cordial. So please do your very best. Despite any emotions you may have, please be respectful in this space, please. So with that being said, I'm going to try to read the names on this list. Some of you do not write so well. I'm going to do my very best. If I mispronounce your name, it is not intentional. It's just that I'm having difficulty reading what you wrote. And again, we're going to have a 3-minute timer. Is everyone okay? Everyone understand that? I want to assume that's a yes. So with that being said, the first person listed is John Kostinowitz. Would you come up, sir, please? Timer is beginning now, sir.
The following are recommendations that I would like to make to the board. The Jail Oversight Board should access the administrative review and the clinical mortality review completed by ACJ of all 14 deaths that have occurred of people incarcerated at ACJ since April of 2020. To comply with the NCCHC standard JA09, which is in this booklet, procedure in the event of an inmate death, ACJ must complete a clinical mortality review within 30 days and an administrative review of all deaths occurring at ACJ or if people have been incarcerated at ACJ and then transferred. A psychological autopsy is required of deaths by suicide. The Jail Oversight Board has the authority to access these reviews based upon the powers and duties of the board identified in the state statute, which states, the books, papers, and records of the prison, including but not limited to the papers and records of the warden and those related to individual inmates, shall at all times be available for inspection by the board. According to different lawyers I've talked to, the claim to deny access to the board because the cases could be in litigation does not hold water. My second recommendation, the Jail Oversight Board should conduct at least one exit interview with a recent correctional officer recruit who has resigned. Of the last 2 recruiting classes of 14 COs, 7 have resigned. In 5 months, half of the new officers have resigned, a decline of 50%. The Jail Oversight Board voted last year by a vote of 6-1 to conduct exit interviews of staff at ACJ. This exceedingly high turnover rate of new recruits severely dims the light of hope that the staff turnover problem will improve. Please take the lead and assess this most critical problem. Recommendation 3, the Jail Oversight Board should conduct unannounced inspections. The state statute governing the authority of the JOB cites unannounced in bold and dark letters and states that the board is required to conduct at least 2 unannounced inspections each year. Besides Councilwoman Bethany Hallam's recent unannounced inspection, I am not aware of any unannounced inspections the board has done.
Mr. Costello, if I may, your 3 minutes is up, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick? Because it was about that.
Those are public comments. We don't respond to public comments. So now we'll hear from, I believe that says Sydney Stevenson. Again, ma'am, I'd ask you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Thank you.
I would like to read a few short examples on behalf of someone who could not be here today, but who was incarcerated in ACJ for over a year. From April to November, he did not receive a sentence and was left in limbo. They made multiple mistakes with transportation and setting up his lawyer, which delayed his hearings for months. The jail has a serious problem with the lack of nurses. Night meds like sleep aids, antidepressants, anti-anxiety could come at any time from 4 to 11 p.m., sometimes even later. One night, they never came at all. The food was not just bad, but unsafe. I had the worst stomach pain after one dinner. They used the same food for multiple days. Trays were not always clean. One of my breakfasts had cake stuck to it from the night before. We had a pod for vaccinated people only, and they brought someone in who hadn't been tested. 15 people caught COVID, and they stopped the vaccine pod. As someone with a master's degree in counseling, I would also like to speak to the psychological effects of solitary confinement. Warden Harper claims that we don't have solitary confinement. Inmates are segregated housing. Yet 294 people as of December 2021 were in segregated housing. Inmates don't care about semantics. Research shows that solitary confinement causes long-term harm, and that's not up for debate. It increases the risk of death due to opioid overdose, homicide, and suicide, and up to 35% of people who spend 30 or more days in solitary confinement go on to develop PTSD. The county has a duty to care for the people they incarcerate, many of whom have not even been convicted of a crime yet. Is this how we show care to our citizens? We must do better. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, ma'am. All right, we'll now hear from Kimberly Andrews. Ms. Andrews, I'd ask that you keep your remarks to 3 minutes, ma'am, please.
I'm gonna make this quick because I'm really not coming in no peace. No justice, no peace. All these people right here, I don't know anybody else, but all these people right here, we're all on the same page. This board is messy. The jail is messy. I'm a survivor. I've been through that abuse. I've been through that neglect. I have PTSD. I go through every day struggling to protect and raise my son. I don't know what this board thinks anybody, like what makes anybody honorable or what makes people, like who are you guys to decide anything? Only person that I've visibly seen really fight for inmates, the incarcerated inmates, is that person right there that you guys keep shunning and telling her, oh, why this? And you guys don't think it's okay to second food? I wouldn't feed my dog that. Literally. There is no medical staff in the jail. I've been in the jail and processing since released like almost a year ago. There was a lady with a heart implant and stuck in processing with me for about 9 hours. She missed about 4 doses and her heart was literally failing on her. I watched it, witnessed it myself. I could give you the date. So you guys are obligated on the board to do something that you guys are refusing to do. You guys are letting Warden Harper tell you guys not to do your job, and guess what? Not only is the blood of this, all the white, really, all the white you see in the crowd, the blood of their family is on your hands, it's on his hands, and it's on Rich Fitzgerald's hands. And honestly, it's ridiculous, and that's as respectful I'm gonna get if for you guys to even discuss or have any type of, oh, well, who's gonna do this and who's gonna do that? You guys wouldn't even have jobs, and I think that's the point. That's why it's a discussion, because you guys wouldn't even be able to sit on a pedestal to even discuss or second anything if people weren't incarcerated, and that's why you guys need them to be. Thank you, Bethany, because you're the only one doing your job. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now hear from, I believe this is Edwin Seawall, perhaps? I apologize if that's an incorrect pronunciation. Edwin, my apologies, sir.
All right, you would be the first one to get it wrong, and you won't be the last.
All right, sir, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have traveled here today from the capital of the Confederacy in Richmond, Virginia, another Commonwealth. And what I've learned in the Commonwealth is that things like this is very commonplace. And so the word for me of the day for all of you on this board is governance. Governance. It is the enshrined duty that you have to the Constitution of not only the state, of the country, but to your own, like, oath, dude. Come on. Like, governance is everything. If you're not doing it to better the quality of people's lives, then you're not ensuring proper governance. If you want to keep letting us vote for you guys or appointing you to these committees, and however it's being done, you have to come with results, and you have to at least try and meet us halfway. We do our best to meet you halfway. We really do. I don't know you very well, Warden Harper, and I don't want to judge you as a man by the things that everyone has told me or what I've seen or read. But I don't know how you go to bed at night knowing that you have blood on your hands, knowing the conditions in which the people, the human beings in the facility that you oversee are not being met to the fullness that it could be. There are people who have lost their lives that could have been at home with their families. And instead, the judiciary, in which they're trying, because I heard her say she's trying, and she may be one of the only ones that's actually trying. You gotta do better, man. If you want us to come and support you, that's why you can smirk at Bethany the way you were doing earlier. That's not okay. I can't respect a man like that. Man to man, I can't respect you for doing something like that. Seriously. And that's a black man. Let's be clear. It's a black man you let lose life. That's one of our brothers, man. Seriously. So for me, at the end of the day, y'all, governance is everything. And it's the essence of your duty. Please, please, please remember that. And start walking it out. Stop just talking about it. Words in the air mean nothing. Well, I'm a man of action. Keep that same energy and take that action, man. I appreciate you guys for even trying to assert something like this, because I don't see this in the Commonwealth of Virginia at all. You're making a great attempt. Make no doubt about that. But continue to do better. Don't be complicit and complacent. It's not a good trait. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your remarks. We will now hear from Ronna Davis.
Hi, my name is Ronna Davis Moore, and I am the cousin of Joanna Saunders, and our cousin, her son, passed away in the Allegheny County Jail. We are calling for Wharton Harper to be brought up. He should be brought up on charges, but we're asking that you look at his conduct for the inmates for medical conditions, for the death of inmates, for medical attention requests, and just treating inmates just human. We need you guys to really investigate what happens at the Allegheny County Jail. That is personal. Professionally, my name is Ronna Davis Moore. I served 4.5 years in the state correctional institution. I went through the Allegheny County Jail. I now run an agency called Zakaya House Housing for people returning from jail. I have 2 facilities, one for men and one for women. When they come from the Allegheny County Jail, they're a mess. They're a mess mentally, they're a mess physically, and all we're trying to do is love them back to care. And they can't get it because they're so stuck on what happened to them in the Allegheny County Jail. Wharton Harper needs to be fired. He needs to be fired. That whole system needs to be dismantled. You know why? Because people like me are human, right? You make mistakes, you go through life, but then people like me end up being me. I have a master's degree now. What would have happened if I would have encountered care at the Allegheny County Jail back then in 1995? What would have happened to me? I wouldn't have been able to come out here and help other people and help them be stabilized. You have to do something. I'm begging you. Like, I'm pleading. That's why you're here. That's your job. You need to do something about him. My cousin is dead. My cousin is dead. He asked for medical attention and he didn't get it. My cousin, his mother wasn't notified. Imagine going to the hospital, not being able to see your son's body. And that's the last thing that you have. You imagine that. Do you have children? Imagine not getting a call from the very systems that are supposed to serve and protect you. Imagine that. He needs to go. And as an African American man, he needs to go. He needs to go. I'm disappointed that he's even over something as precious as the criminal justice system that is supposed to organize to help us become better people. It's never going to happen under his jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We'll now hear from Brandy Fisher. She's not here? She signed in. She's not here? All right, I don't want to cross anyone off. Next in line was Joanna, I believe that's the correct pronunciation, Joanna Sanders.
Hello, everyone. I'm Warner Saunders. You may not remember me, Warren Harper, but my name is Warner Saunders. I am the mother of Gerald Lamont Thomas Jr. My son Gerald passed away March 6th at the Allegheny County Jail under your watch. It took several weeks of my son's passing for you to reach out through phone call after multiple attempts to contact Mr. Richard Fitzgerald. You did not offer your condolences or comfort to me in my grief. You were cold and uncaring. Instead, you took time to make sure that you covered yourself legally while shifting the blame away from yourself and your officers and your jail. You treated me and my son's death as though we were a problem that you had to deal with instead of recognizing that we are a family mourning and I am a mother struggling with grief. You deserve to be fired and investigated for the inhumane way that you run your jail. There are very few people who consider the families when we talk about these deaths in the jail. Board members do not show up for these meetings, and our calls for help go unheard. I was not notified of my son's medical emergency by the jail staff until many hours later. Whew. And to this day, there are many unanswered questions surrounding my son's death, and I demand and deserve answers and clarity and peace. The members of the Oversight Board neglect. Y'all neglect your responsibilities to show up for these meetings, hear from the public and advocates for our incarcerated loved ones. Some of you should be ashamed. I do not wish this pain on anyone and do not wish this for any mother to ever have to face the heartbreaking uncertainty and lack of compassion. Drew was my son. He was a brother. He was a father, a good father. He was caring and loving and funny, and he was bright. And he mattered. His life mattered. May not to y'all, but it mattered to me, and it mattered to us standing here before you. Warren Harper, you told me that your jail was never medically understaffed, and you are a liar. Your own officers admitted that you lied. I am here to remind you all that you are not God. No one should have to beg to see a doctor. No one should have to hope and pray that a nurse makes it to them before they pass away alone on a jail floor. I asked the Jail Oversight Board and Warren Harper, are we running a jail or a cemetery? How will y'all keep our loved ones safe while we work hard to free them? How?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we'll hear from, I believe this says Nadia Narner, perhaps?
Hi, I'm Nadia Narnor. I'm a community organizer with the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration. So first off, I've been a person who's been ashamed for anyone to see me cry, and I'm doing it right now, and I want y'all to look at me. I'm doing it right now. I've never met Gerald. I've never met his family, but I am in the community, and I'm freaking crying here, you know? I'm crying. I want people to realize that this community, you can't just push people out and act like they're not a part of something because they are. I said it last week and it still keeps happening. Me coming into the JOB meeting last week, seeing Rich Fitzgerald literally laughing, walking out of the building before I came here, I pay for y'all, right? And y'all serve us, right? They got notified 2 weeks after Gerald died. They called the wrong family that he died. These are not isolated incidents, and y'all can act like they are. Y'all can act like people are not in that prison without a choice, without even doing anything, without being convicted. Like, you can say that, you can use semantics, but this is a cycle of rich money going around and us staying at the bottom. We have two demands. One, that you change how people and families are contacted, because it doesn't work. I'm not asking, I'm telling. The second thing is that you let people update the emergency contact anytime, not just in the beginning, because we already know people are isolated at intake. We already know people are dying of detox at intake. Warden Harper needs to be fired. As a black woman, I look at you, I see, oh, this is a black man, right? You're just gonna protect me? That's it, you know? That's it. Y'all focus on the amount of people in the facility and don't think about why they're there. Don't think about why cops pick on certain people and why other people get out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mel. We will now hear from Tanisha Long.
First, I'd like to make a quick comment on the catch a charge. I'm a person who has actually caught a charge for something I haven't done. I think it's disrespectful to argue the language of catching a charge in front of people who have actually done it. I also think it's disrespectful to argue with the crowd and then tell them they can't respond. So if you don't want the public to publicly respond to being publicly addressed, you should probably tell the members of your board not to look at the crowd and tell them they're wrong. That's not right. But we'll move past that, only because I have a very limited amount of time. You're hearing tonight from people who have been directly impacted by the actions of the jail, the actions of the warden, and the actions of these systems. And I understand that you have no control about who ends up in the jail, but you absolutely have a responsibility for what happens to them once they're in there. Simple motions involving food, simple motions involving the way people are notified. These are important things. And one of the things that strikes me the most, the call that I'm hearing the most, the man who cannot look at the families while they are giving their piece, Warden Harper, you are the running theme in all of these conversations. And you can stare ahead and you can pretend that we're not talking to you, but this is the truth. Who can change that? Who can fire Warden Harper? Rich Fitzgerald. Who is not at these board meetings? Rich Fitzgerald. Who is your co-board member? Rich Fitzgerald. And I know that you are a stickler for the rules, Judge Halsey. So why is Steve Pilarski sitting here in Rich Fitzgerald's seat, and he is not lawfully allowed to be his designee? So if we are going to run this board in a way that is lawful and fair to everyone, then you need to demand that Rich Fitzgerald comes in and I stop addressing an empty seat for his behavior. He's the only person who can give these families the relief they're looking for. He is the only person who can make this jail a safer place, and he cannot be bothered to show up. But he can post on Twitter that he's at Connor Lamb mixers, and he's at baseball games, and he's at things that are more important to him than the lives of people here. So I don't lay the blame solely on Warden Harper's feet. I also lay a lot of this blame at the feet of Rich Fitzgerald and at the feet of the board members for not holding him accountable. Why are there 9 board members and 3 empty seats right now? Where is everyone? This is once a month. We're not asking you to show up every day. We're asking you to show up once a month. The devil does not need an advocate. What you are doing right now, you are advocating for Warden Harper through inaction. And that's wrong. She deserves better. Our friends and family deserve better. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to try to get this name correct. Jonas Caballero?
On this issue of catching charges, if Councilmember Hallam isn't allowed to say catch charges, then I'm sorry, judges should not be allowed to say my people. They're not your people. To say your people implies ownership, and you do not own these people. I'm flabbergasted that y'all couldn't pass a simple motion for the jail to notify the JOB members each time that food served to incarcerated individuals deviates from the posted menu and the reasons for those deviations. It's a simple no-brainer for any person that has any inch of compassion in their body. Judge Halsey, you mentioned that it would be onerous, and onerous means oppressively burdensome, but the ACJ Food Services Procedure Policy number 314 currently requires its food manager to do exactly what Councilmember Bethany Hallam is asking for in her motion. And we can't pass a simple motion like that because of this is food. If you can't tell what's on these photographs, it's food. And I'll get to that in a second. On January 19th, an incarcerated individual at the ACJ, Justin Troop, was horrified when he discovered that the lower half of a cooked rat with its legs and tail still intact was on his dinner tray. The eviscerated rodent was mixed in with Mr. Troop's macaroni and bologna. And Mr. Troop has been suffering from various stomach ailments ever since it happened. And I asked last month to this very board if you could please provide the incident report that was written up after that incident and provide it to Mr. Troop or his family, and that hasn't been done so to date. It has now also been several months since this very board instructed Warden Harper to bring the jail dietitian with him to a JOB meeting. Many of us here in the community and in the ACJ are still very much looking forward to seeing the dietitian here at this meeting to answer very pertinent questions about the food that is being served to our loved ones in the Allegheny County Jail. Would you guys seriously consider eating any of the stuff that is in these photographs? I mean, electric green Jell-O slopped onto a tray with runny mashed potatoes and peanut butter? Would any of you be satisfied with a little baggie of Teddy Grahams and a couple pieces of bologna dripping with applesauce for your dinner? Would you eat that? Would you serve it to your mother, to your daughter, to your husband, to your wife, to your grandchildren? Would you seriously put any of this into your mouth? I think not. Now, we're requesting that the dietitian come so that we can bring up these questions with them, with that person who is contracted through Summit. It's a very simple ask, and y'all have asked Warden Harper himself to bring that person here. It's a simple demand. So please, and also Housey, Honorable Housey, you're a stickler for the process. As Tanisha said, Rich Fitzgerald is supposed to be here. If you're a stickler for the process, can we please get Mr. Rich Fitzgerald to sit in his seat so that he can hear from us in the community? We pay his salary, get him in his seat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list is Brian Engler. Mr. Engler, I have to apologize. I need to use the restroom. So I don't want to walk out while you're speaking. I don't want that to be a sign of disrespect. If you prefer to wait, you'll wait? Okay, fair enough.
I just want to mention for Judge Lazara, because she had to leave. Go ahead. You could still pass it out. To who, Judge Lazara? I can do it. So I just wanted to mention for Judge Lazara and for the board that when she's talking about her people, she's talking about mental health court. And if you've ever been to a mental health court graduation, it is a really phenomenal process. And that group really does become like a family. So it is really something to see. And Judge Lazara wanted me to extend the invitation that the next graduation is this coming Monday at 1 p.m. It is on the county courthouse steps. And you're all welcome to come. It is a public event. So I just wanted to mention that.
What's that all about? The warden one. I had water though. Sure you want the...
Yeah, I'll just wait till my boss comes back.
My apologies.
That's okay.
I had a bottle of water. It was over.
I mean, I might as well just get the rest of this all the way.
Thank you for your indulgence. Mr. Engler, you have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is Brian Engler. I'm president of the Allegheny County Prison Employees Independent Union. Back again to talk about what I always seem to be talking about, staffing. We're in a staffing crisis at this jail. I talk about it every month. We now have a deputy warden in charge of employee development, Deputy Warden Toma. I haven't seen many people coming through the door as I have seen her writing them up and disciplining them. We lost half of our new cadets in the last 5 months. I'm losing another one. They're quitting. We had 2 officers recently fired that were 2 weeks away from probation. I would think that the Deputy Warden of Employee Development will be able to give them some sort of coaching or retraining to retain these officers who are 2 weeks away from being off of probation, yet our own Deputy Warden of Employee Development has never worn a uniform in that building. There's no kind of effort being made to keep officers or recruit officers. We're seeing other jails offer $10,000 signing bonuses just to come work there. Washington, Montana, Indiana, Ohio is $2,500. Even former Chief Deputy Warden Williams is offering a $2,000 bonus. I can't get people. We're running dangerously short every day. The other night we ran intake with 7 people. We've ran intake multiple nights in a row with no medical at all whatsoever. And I'm asking them to shut down the jail because now we have sergeants doing our jobs. Nobody's worried. I mean, people are worried about inmates doing our jobs, and it's a union issue, Steve. What about the sergeants that are doing our jobs right now? Because we don't have enough officers. We routinely don't have 6-hour escorts. That's dangerous for response in the facility. Right now, we cut the 2nd officer on 5F. Sorry, Judge Lazaro left, but that's a mental health unit. That is a housing unit that we've had 2 officers for over 5 years. They just cut a 2nd officer at will. This was not a decision run by the Suicide Prevention Committee. It wasn't. You can't just arbitrarily cut an officer for whenever you want. You have to bargain with the union when it comes down to officer safety. And this is a mental health unit where we've had multiple issues, 50 or so reports over the last 2 years. When I write to the administration, they refuse to answer anything in email from the union. The other night we were so understaffed, the captain brought me in, said, how do we solve this? If we had access to our email, we're the only department that doesn't have access to our email outside of work. I could have sent an email out to all the officers and said, hey, I need people in here to work. We're dangerously understaffed on Memorial Day weekend. That same weekend, the food service vendor didn't come in. I had to order $1,000 worth of pizza to feed my guys. And by the way, when we've served a frozen sandwich, I asked the old Deputy Warden Williams, hey, let me buy my guys pizza on my pod. They wouldn't do it. But at least we got to order food for my officers. Now they're ordering us to sign off on Narcan training after reading a handout. Hey, here's a 3-page handout. Sign in and read it. That's not training. That's an order to put your name on something to check a box. We still don't have uniforms. I talked about this 3 or 4 months ago. 6 months later, we have no uniforms. And right now, when we have overdoses happening in the jail, my officers are searching for fentanyl without proper safety gear. None of this is good. And this is the reason why we put forward a vote of no confidence in the warden back in March. And I'm going to deliver the signatures from that petition. I believe, as the public have said, nothing is running right in this jail. And for my officer safety, nothing is running right, and you all have an oversight to this. We run the jail, they tell us how to do it. They refuse to email us and tell us how to do it, and they're not getting anybody to work there. We're in a crisis mode. My people are burnt out. This is what the warden says to the media. We're adequately staffed. Everybody know we're not adequately staffed. Whether it's officers or mental health, we're not adequately staffed. And I'm going to bring the petition to you of the people that signed to have him step down or be removed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I apologize in advance. This looks like Michael Barone or Barona. I'm not sure. Barone. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Again, sir, you have 3 minutes.
Start now. Good.
Sorry, no.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Barone. I was recently employed at the Allegheny County Jail. I was terminated due to the vaccine mandate. I just wanted to come up and talk, being that I'm available to come today. And you know, I've witnessed a lot of everything of what everybody's talking about. I was an employee for a long time. And these staffing issues you're having, you're causing them. I've talked to you, Steve. I've talked to Warden Harper on several occasions. You guys create policies and policies and policies, and there's a complete lack of correspondence between the people that are coming up with these policies and the actual enforcement of them. Officers need to be on the same page, and whenever we give insight back to you guys, nobody ever wants to hear it. I used to come to these board meetings all the time, just completely shot down. Get out of here, get out of here. They don't want to hear nothing. So morale is a huge problem. You can't have a jail run with your entire workforce being disgruntled. You're not going to get employees. You employ people to be in Ms. Toma's position. She doesn't have any correctional experience. So when you have policymakers that don't know what they're they've never had their boots on the ground, or coming from Steve's position, coming down the chain, how are you going to understand the process? You're not going to, and then not take feedback from the officers. You're not going to have anything operate properly. When you're understaffed to the degree you are, you better come up with a better idea. You know, like Officer Engler talked about, you got a sign-on bonus. You got something you could do, and then treat your people appropriately. When you keep treating your people like crap, you're not going to get quality employees, and you're going to continue to lose employees. That's an inevitability. There's no other way that it's going to work until you turn around what you're doing and start to work with the officers and the sergeants and the captains, instead of just telling people what to do and blaming them when something goes wrong, whenever they have no chance of understanding what needs to be done other than from the angle we see it as a person doing the job. And you put one person in responsibility are held responsible for the lives of 100 people on a unit and expect us to carry out 1,000 different policies and procedures and post orders. It's impossible. A robot couldn't do it. So we need help, and instead of helping, you give hearings and hearings and hearings. You're writing people up. What is that going to benefit? How about have a conversation with somebody? You get out of the office, go to the unit, and talk to somebody as a man, but that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You get a hearing, and then you're sitting there, and then in the hearing, that's a complete joke. Oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah, here you go. Here's your suspension. Go ahead, get out now. You don't even listen to what people got to say. And this is the results. This is the results. This is what you got. I told you this a long time ago. So I hope you're enjoying it, and it's obviously not working out for you. So until you change direction, this is going to continue. So sorry, guys, for everything you guys are going through. I really am. And God bless, because they're going to need it down there.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Thank you. Next on the list appears to be Edwan Whitehead, perhaps? Wait, sir, but you only get to speak once.
I know, I'm going to give my time and yield my time to babysit.
Okay, but she's not on the list.
I would prefer to yield my time, Judge Halsey. I know you're a stickler.
No, that's not how it works. I apologize, but that's not how it works. How it works is she has to sign up.
Oh, wait, that's the sister of the man who died in the jail. Can we please let her speak?
She has to sign up, and you signed up twice, and for her. No, it'll just take longer. Just go ahead.
Okay, I'm not going to be long. I just want to speak on behalf of my little brother, Gerald Thomas, and the PTSD that I suffer working at Mercy Hospital when my brother was there. I was on the clock when my brother was transferred to the hospital. I ran downstairs to the emergency room to try to get to see where my brother was, if he was even there. They couldn't even tell me. I had to clock out of work to go down to the jail. This is my first time even seeing his face. I don't even remember being there with him. But for him to just say, I send my condolences, and that was it. That was it. There was absolutely nothing else. At the funeral, I seen him come up to the casket and say, it wasn't? Okay. Well, I just don't, just me, working at the hospital and my brother being there, my 40 plus hours, I work at this hospital and I suffer PTSD because of what happened to my brother. And with there being, I can't even go in the emergency room without crying. I went down there to see 2 officers outside of a room with the lights off. I ran. They couldn't even tell me he was there. I was looking for him, and they couldn't tell me. They sat me in a room and told me I had to leave. So in my life, I now have to change my job and where I work because of what happened. And I just don't agree with it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome, sir. We'll now hear from, this appears to be Yvonne Brow. I don't see an N. Is that Brow, ma'am?
Yes, you're saying that correct.
Thank you. Okay, you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Yes, I understand. My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live in the Hill District. I have also lost a son, but not at the jail. My son was in Wilkinsburg, had been beaten was on the floor saying he had one lung, and they even said he had an issue of blood. They wouldn't take him to the hospital. They left him. The man that knocked him out came back and stomped my son to death. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop about that because I need to tell you something. All of you, you need to understand this, that you got people in jail, and once you take them out of jail, you send them out of jail, they go in the summertime. They send them out in the winter. It can be 2 below zero, and you got people with summer clothes on. I stopped the one man, I said, sir, you don't have a coat on. He just came out of jail. You're gonna make more, we're gonna have to spend more money when they put this man in the hospital because he got pneumonia. But another thing, I'm going around, but you need to hear this. When you have your dispatchers, they should be police officers. I want you to understand. Remember the 3 police that got killed out there in Garfield? It was the white woman talking to another white woman. Do your son have guns? Oh, no, he does, but he's not dangerous. Now, if I had called and said about my son and they asked about guns, and I said, yes, he have it, you know they would have put on their guns. But this is a white woman talking to another white woman. She wasn't even thinking. And we lost 3 men because this white woman was talking to a white woman. If it had been a black woman, that's why I'm saying there's got to be a dispatcher, a policeman that understands if someone say jail, guns, you put guns, so they would know. They shouldn't have died the way they did. Also, with the food, my son was in jail, and he was telling me, Mommy, they can take, only thing he said, he worked in the kitchen, so he got to eat good. But he had seen meatloaf left out there all night, and the next day, meatloaf that these people have to eat. You must understand that they're not dogs, they are human beings. And please excuse the loud voice, but I'm loud, sir. I'm angry too because you just make the decision of life and death, and we can't talk to you. And Mr. Hopper, you should be ashamed. I've been dealing with you, listening about what you've been doing for years, and then you sit there and actually say, when they ask you for papers, if you see so, who are you? It should be anything that board asks for, you should give them. I don't care about, well, I have to sit there. Forget you. Give them what they need. I'm not kidding. He can stop everything if he just say, I don't think, or I say. No, Beth and all of you, you too, you should demand to see what he's saying not. He's not going to give. And my time may be up, I'm sorry. But please listen to these people. My family is dying.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on the list is Darwin Luoba. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So, to the board and Judge Housey, I hear you say again and again that we should trust the can you hear? Is that better? You keep talking about trusting the process and trusting the process. And this is where the process has brought us, to these meetings that, I think I speak for everyone, they're really quite awful. I don't think anybody here enjoys them. Polarski, they send you as the punching bag for the administration because Fitzgerald doesn't bother to show up. Housey, how disrespectful it is for Fitzgerald not to show up and expect you to do a lot of his bidding. I think it's, when you have abolitionists and correctional officers agreeing on what's happening in the jail, I think that shows that this isn't an ideological issue. This isn't left versus right. There's just some basic oversight and incompetency that's happening. And back to respecting the process, I think we should think about judicial ethics because, Fitzgerald's campaign account gave your campaign account $25,000 when you ran for judge last year. That was, back of the envelope calculations, around 20% of your total contributions, a huge chunk. And per the judicial ethics conduct rules, you should be trying to avoid any sort of appearance of impropriety. But when you say trust the process, but then allow an illegal designee, an illegal designee for somebody who gave your campaign $25,000 last year, I see a huge conflict of interest there. Whether actual or appearance doesn't matter because judicial ethics conduct, I'm no expert on it, is about what the appearance is. So like, I don't understand how we can trust the process because, meeting and meeting again, we see a open contempt for any sort of transparency or action. Just talking about these meals. I mean, obviously, we weren't talking about millions of meals. We were talking about, of the 3 meals a day, just send an email if there was a deviation. Once a week, tell us which of the 21 meals had a deviation, what the deviation was, and why it happened. So basic things like that aren't happening. So that's why we can't trust the process. That's why there are outbursts. And I think we'd have smoother meetings. I think things would run better if we saw good faith coming from the board, which I don't think we see. And that's what makes these meetings so miserable. And I think we should consider why you're on the board. And Mr. Polarski, I don't think they pay you enough to do what you're doing. I think you should think about there's other jobs. We can get paid more to not get yelled at by the public for basically, being covered for Fitzgerald and Liptak, who are brilliant people who could solve this problem if they wanted to, but they just don't, and they just try to keep sweeping things under the rug. And that's why we had Warden Harp in the first place, was so they could have somebody who would just ignore problems so when they become an issue. So anyways, that's just my theory of everything. It's a lot of conjecture. But I think it's something that people need to know about and that needs to be addressed. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you very much. Last on the list, Marion. Mrs. Damson? Damn it. All right, ma'am. Pull that down. We're going to give you 3 minutes, okay, ma'am?
I can talk loudly. I do. Here I am. Okay.
I'm starting the timer now, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You have 3 minutes. Everyone had 3 minutes.
Okay, I got you.
I'd let you know.
Okay, I didn't come. I didn't come to hear about people, their children dying. Because I'm a mother who lost a son, also through some accident that was caused by the pilot. I know how that feels. I also know, since I've been a long time coming, years ago, this very issue came to the Oversight Board, which also did nothing about it. And the oversight of not being able to be told when your child or whatever is dead. They said at that time, I'll tell you this isn't, they weren't going to tell it because too many people would run up to the hospital, and the hospital didn't want this. It was just too much. This is not a new idea, but it has not been solved yet. And it's really time that it is solved. Also, the food has gotten actually worse than when it was years ago, and I know. I wasn't in it, but I know about it. The food is really, and that has to be solved. It could be, okay, it costs more. Obviously, it now costs more. We people out here, we're paying for it. We want to pay for food that our family can eat healthily and come back as healthy people. Now, that isn't what I came for. Actually, this has to do with death. It has to do with current deaths, with the news that's coming up about all the deaths caused by young people with guns. And what has happened is the same, because what we did was very bad, and I take some blame too. I didn't keep raising the issue. The issue is what happened to Schumann. Schumann was a place where the young kids who have created some problems can be treated, and they won't become like these guys who came and did murders of all the kids, or the ones in Texas, the ones in Buffalo, the ones everywhere. That's happening. We missed it. We didn't do anything when they closed it. We're not doing anything now that they've closed it, and that's one of the ways that we might prevent it. Get the kids when they're younger, not when they're older. They're already ready. Jump. Get them when they're younger. We've missed out on that. That is really, I wasn't, didn't raise the issue much. Nobody did. When we didn't even hear about it. And you said you would know that Suman closed. It closed because someone misacted there, and the state said to close it. We as the court can try in the county to get another hospital like that, another facility, and you've done nothing. We've done nothing, and I really find I hope to live long enough that you will have done it. I'm be 97 in two months, and I hope to live. I doubt it. I want to see another facility that will take young people and keep that. Okay?
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Tillman. Thank you very much. All right, we will now hear the warden's report. I'm sorry. Now hear the warden's report.
Your Honor, I just want to talk a little bit about deaths. And all deaths are tragedies. All deaths are tragedies. And I don't want anybody to think that this administration don't think otherwise. But I've been reviewing statistics from the Bureau of Justice. And the Bureau of Justice has reported mortality in local jails has increased over recent years. There's been a 5% increase in deaths from 2018 through 2019, and a 33% increase since 2000. The Bureau of Justice data covers from 2000 to 2019. At the Allegheny County Jail between 2018 and 19, our deaths decreased by 25%, with fewer deaths in 2019 than 2018. In accordance to the Bureau of Justice, you will find many jails our size that have more deaths than Allegheny County. And if you look at state county jails, you will also see that they have higher death rates than Allegheny County Jail. So I just want to say, if you look at the data, the death rates at the Allegheny County Jail is significantly lower than jails our size nationwide and within our state. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Can you repeat that last sentence one more time? I'm sorry. What did you say about the comparably sized jails?
I said that our death rates at the Allegheny County Jail of jails our size throughout the nation and within our state is significantly lower than other jails.
Is that the extent of your report, sir?
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Any questions, Ms. Hallam?
I have a bunch. You want to see if anybody else wants to go first?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Sorry, just trying to collect myself here. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and this was something actually that a public commenter brought up as well too, is we were told that we would get to speak with a dietitian. What's the status of that?
You sent an email on Sunday saying that you wanted the dietitian's name, so I have the name.
No, that was a follow-up because you didn't respond to the last time that we at this board meeting requested the dietitian here.
Mm-hmm.
We want them here at this meeting.
So
for us to
I
talk
will
to.
ask Summit if I can have the dietitian here by the next meeting.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I just thought we had said that at a previous meeting, but okay, next meeting would be great. Second, talking about emails, so I did send an email about a concern I had with someone who you were CC'd on it, Beeson was CC'd on it, the healthcare people who were in while the other healthcare person was out of town were all on it, so I know you got it if you got that one. And never even got a response about someone who was detoxing and intake and trying to ensure that they got their methadone and something for alcohol withdrawal. Never even got a response. So my question out of that is, if I can't get answers here, I can't get answers when I reach out via email in between the meetings, when is the appropriate time to ensure the well-being of someone in the jail, which again, remember, is every single one of our statutory duty. This isn't like an optional take care of the people in the jail, statutorily obligated. So how do I do that?
So, Ms. Hallam, I cannot respond back to you as to what a person's health condition is, because that would be a violation of HIPAA. So only thing that I will say to you is that individuals coming in our facility, we make sure that they get the care that they're supposed to get. As you know, we're looking for a vendor to provide methadone for everybody, and we're in the process of doing that now. Right now, we provide methadone for our pregnant females, but we're working with the vendor to provide methadone for everybody.
Right, and if you remember my email, I did not ask for a specific individual's information. I mentioned a specific individual that arose the concern about someone cold turkey detoxing on the floor of the ACJ. And so all I was asking was for a status of when someone comes in on an active methadone prescription from the streets, are they getting their meds? It is a medication prescribed by a doctor, and it just blows my mind that for months and months, I mean, to be honest, years now, what's been talked about is, oh, we're working on the methadone, we're working on the methadone. But then every single day, people come into the jail from the streets with a prescription from a doctor that they're not being given as soon as they enter the walls of the jail. And so I will ask once again, when is that going to happen?
We're working on it as quickly as we possibly can, ma'am.
Do you have another question? He's answered the question. We're supposed to get to it. Do you have another
So he can say that for 2 years? He's working as quickly as he can? I have plenty more questions. Okay. Next question is about, specifically since you brought up HIPAA. So I know that's also been an argument that you've used to not give more information to us about people who have lost their lives in the jail, is that it's a HIPAA violation. But my understanding is that HIPAA is actually, the purpose of it is to protect the patient, not any accused wrongdoer, such as the Allegheny County Jail. So I'm wondering how you are justifying claiming HIPAA to prevent us getting information about people who die in the jail.
Ms. Hallam, it depends on what information that you're requesting. If you're requesting on health information, we're not going to give that out in this forum. And if it's pending litigation, we're not going to discuss that in this forum, ma'am.
There is not pending litigation for every single person who's lost their life in the jail.
We don't know that, ma'am.
I know that. Lawsuits are public record.
I have my attorney right here, so maybe.
Please.
Well, what I can say is that HIPAA survives that. So
I'm aware.
The HIPAA laws survive that, so we aren't allowed to discuss medical, an individual's medical conditions, even post their death. We cannot discuss an individual incarcerated individual's medical condition even after their death. As far as the pending litigation, you're correct. Not every death is pending litigation. The advice that we give is this is something that a death is something that could likely turn into litigation, and we advise the jail not to comment on a specific death.
But in your understanding, is there anything that legally prevents us from having that information, despite your opinion that the jail should not comment on it? Because
medical information under HIPAA, the jail cannot provide medical information to anybody other than the individual, or if an estate is set up, we can provide it to the representative from the estate.
And so with your understanding of HIPAA, is the intention of the HIPAA protections to protect the patient or to protect any wrongdoer to the patient?
It protects the patient.
Right. So now, if we are trying to get justice for someone who lost their life at the jail or someone who had a serious medical issue at the jail, how is it that the HIPAA is protecting them? Isn't it more protecting you guys?
Same response. I mean, the HIPAA survives death. We cannot discuss an individual's medical conditions even post their death.
So it would have to be requested by the family members.
Could you please state your name just for the purposes of the minutes?
Dennis Biondo, Biondo.
Thank you.
So I understand that the family could request it, but the reality is that the families do request that information and never get it.
It would be the representative of the estate.
Which is legally who? If there is no will, who is the representative of the estate?
It could be the next of kin. It could be the next of kin.
So let's say it's a child. Who would it be? If the person's next of kin and they have a 4-year-old child, who would it be?
Circumstances.
I mean, is it a parent? I'm trying, a spouse?
It could be a parent.
Okay. And how do you determine who is allowed to get that information if there is no will?
I don't have an answer to that today.
Okay. But the jail actively is doing that, right? Is making notifications?
They're notified, as far as, I mean, that's.
So what was the question?
What I'm asking is, how is a next of kin determined? Because you're obviously making notifications, so you have to determine who the next of kin is.
We make notification to the emergency contact that was given to us by the incarcerated individual.
Right, and I know that's a whole separate issue, but what if there is no emergency contact, or what if you cannot reach the emergency contact?
And then we try to reach anybody that we can to try to inform.
And so that's for notification of death. What about after the fact, communicating any information that comes out as a result of the county police investigation, from the medical examiner, anything like that?
I think the family member would just have to make a request to whomever to try to get, become the executor of the estate.
Okay, and so we heard today from Gerald's mother, Miss Juana, who said that they were not contacted. So I'm wondering, how that went to be that someone else, a wrong person, was contacted to let them know of Gerald's death.
Well, I don't know anything about the wrong person being notified, and that's something that I'm not going to discuss in this forum.
And why is that?
You have another question?
No, I would like an answer to that question, please.
I'm not going to respond to that in this forum, Ms. Holland.
Answer that question every meeting.
I'm going to ask at every meeting. Okay, next question is, okay, so, we heard from the president of the Corrections Officers Union today about Summit not providing, now this was specifically about the workers' meals, and we have seen over and over and over again pictures, I have pictures on my phone of the bologna sandwich that are being served almost every single day right now, with mold on them, but is it a violation of your contract with Summit that they are not providing 3 meals a day in accordance with the menu that's posted?
Summit has a responsibility to provide 3 meals a day, and they do everything in their power to try to do that. There's a pandemic called COVID that is out. It's really crippling how we're doing things as far as workers working in the kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. So when we don't have staff, incarcerated individuals to work in the kitchen, we have to do something to feed the incarcerated individuals, Ms. Howell. And we do everything in our power to make sure that we feed the incarcerated individuals.
And
We can't have our break in the meetings.
so is there an ACJ policy that the jail must keep an accurate record of all meals prepared?
I don't recall a policy stating that. no,
Thank you
ma'am.
all for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so sorry about.
So there is, and I can read from it for you if you give me 1 second. I can pull it up on my phone if there's a question about it. But what it says is that the jail must keep an accurate record and all menu substitutions shall be recorded. This
What
is
policy is
this
that?
is directly from your policy number 314 titled Food Service Procedures.
I will have to look at that to see, ma'am.
Okay, but so then my question though is, without you even looking at it, do you keep an accurate record of all meals served?
We do.
Okay, so it already exists, even if it's a deviation from the menu, that information already exists because you keep a record of the meals served.
We do.
Okay, so would it be an unnecessary burden for this board to get that information?
That would be a lot of information to provide.
A menu that was served?
Oh, a menu? We post the menus on the website every week, Ms. Howell.
No, so what I'm talking about is the policy doesn't talk about requiring the menu, it talks about requiring an accurate record of meals served, provided. And those are different.
We have that.
Right, so when we were discussing up here earlier that it would be too much of a burden to let us know what meals are provided, that record already exists, correct?
We have a record of the bills that are provided, Ms. Howell.
Okay, in accordance with that policy, great. So it does exist, and again, it's not, just for clarification, it's not the menu, it's what actually was served, correct?
For the 4th time, we have that record, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question is, are lawyers ever denied seeing their client?
If the lawyer is violating policies, they could be, yes.
Is that the only reason why a lawyer would ever request a visit with their client and be told in the jail, tell them no?
If the lawyer is not following our policies, the legal visit could be denied, yes, ma'am.
No, I totally understand that, but I'm saying, is there any other reason?
No other reason that I could think of.
The only other instance that will come to mind is if it's a video visit that we're having. That was the only other one that, not that they're denied it, but that we're having technical difficulties at that time.
Okay, so was there 2 whole
We will have to do some research on that, Ms. Howell.
Okay,
We don't
please
have
do.
that right now.
Can you please do that research? Because I'm concerned because I'm starting to get more reports again, and this was something that happened, in the middle of last year when we had some COVID spikes. But now I'm seeing it again now, where lawyers are complaining to me that they're trying to speak with their clients, whether it's an in-person or even video visits, and are being denied access to their clients, which is like super illegal.
Well, I just want to say this: if we don't have if I will get you that information.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question is about, so when folks are released upstairs, like they come from the pods and then they're released out of the jail, they come out in the main entry, like the upstairs, right? But if they never went upstairs and they get arraigned and ROR'd and then go out through the downstairs, they're not going through the discharge and release center, correct?
They're not if the discharge and release center is not open, no.
Okay, because my concern is that I've been hearing lately from folks, particularly in law enforcement, who are seeing some issues outside of the jail at all different hours of the day because of folks who don't have, a way to charge their cell phone when they're released, don't have any money, bus pass, have no idea where they are or where to go. Ms. Marion spoke earlier, or someone spoke earlier about the clothing that they're being released in. I forget who said that earlier. But I'm wondering what we do to support folks when they're leaving the jail who don't have access to the discharge and release center.
We have the capability to make sure that individuals are appropriately clothed when they leave our facility, even if the discharge and release center is not open. We have that in our intake department.
But I'm asking, is there an entire population of folks who don't even leave through the upstairs, who leave from downstairs?
Anybody that leaves our facility that needs to have appropriate clothing, we will provide it, regardless of whether it's upstairs, downstairs, wherever.
I'm sorry, I'm not just speaking about clothing. I'm talking about a way to charge their cell phone so they can call for a ride. I'm talking about a bus pass. I'm talking about a variety of things to keep them safe and help them get home.
Okay, so look, the bus passes, I will have to look. I think we do provide bus passes that they don't, so I'm gonna look. I don't know for sure. And cell phone charging, no, we don't provide that.
Okay, so there are people who leave the jail who have no resources on their way out.
I'm saying that there are people that leave the jail that may not have the capability of charging their phones. I will check on whether or not they get bus passes, but they will get appropriate clothing regardless of who they are.
Okay, thank you very much. My next question is about, talking about the loss of life in the jail. So, I was reading some old meeting minutes because, that's just what I was doing. And so from a 2016 Jail Oversight Board meeting, the medical doctors from the jail and the jail administration used to provide what I consider a lot of information compared to what we're getting now about people who die within the walls of the jail. This excerpt specifically from the meeting minutes from 2016 says, and this was while you were Warden Harper informed the board that due to a doctor being gone, another doctor was going to be providing the report and answering any questions. The doctor addressed the recent suicide at the Allegheny County Jail. The doctor medically reviewed the case. The patient was seen by the medical director on multiple occasions for suicidal thoughts and was placed on proper detox. From a medical standpoint, all policies and procedures were followed. So now this is in the meeting minutes from 2016. So we are going backwards. We have not gotten a single piece of information. There were multiple instances where someone died after being in the jail where we didn't even get told. We heard from the families, from the press, about people dying in the jail. So I'm wondering, did jail policies change from 2016 and now? Did HIPAA change? Did anything like that change that would allow you to give that information to the Jail Oversight Board in 2016, but not give it to the Jail Oversight Board of now?
Until I get to review the minutes, Ms. Hallam, I do not know. So I will review the minutes and then I can report back to you later on.
Okay. Do you want me to send this to you, or are you going to read through all of them?
You can send it to me.
Okay, I will do that. Okay. I think the rest of my questions are for Chief Deputy Warden, but my last question for you is about the morale of the staff. And, you know, we hear over and over again, we have multiple staff members not just coming here and talking out at meetings, but reaching out to us as members of the Jail Oversight Board, posting on social media, just talking about low morale within the jail amongst staff and how it is impacting their ability to properly do their jobs as corrections officers, medical staff, mental health staff. And so I'm wondering, is there anything that you are actively doing besides like the big banners, thank you to our workers, for trying to boost morale amongst staff members?
Absolutely there is, Ms. Howland. One of the things that we're starting to implement is the Employee of the Month program, where the department head is going to select an individual from their department to the Employee of the Month committee to recognize these different individuals. So that's one of the things that we're going to start on June the 15th, you know, an Employee of the Month. So that's one of the things that we're looking at doing.
Okay, that's great. What about making sure that they have, you know, meals every day? What about making sure they have adequate uniforms? What about things like that? Are any of those coming up on June 15th also?
We always make sure that our employees have the adequate meals that they're supposed to have, and also our incarcerated individuals. So we already do that.
Can you speak to the situation that Mr. Engler talked about today about having to buy pizza because there was no food for the staff?
I don't want to talk about that in this form, no ma'am.
Okay, and why is that?
I don't think it's appropriate to talk about it in this form.
But why is that, is my ask?
Okay, another question.
Oh, give me an answer.
Next question.
Warden, if I may, I can answer that question. You don't have all the, there's certainly information. There was that he was not forced to buy pizza for any of his individuals. He asked to buy pizza at around 6 o'clock. Got an answer to, actually, because this would be a violation of policy to bring food in. They have to get special permission to bring food in. So he got that permission via email. I have those emails. He bought it. It was delivered prior to the individual calling off. So unless he knew that that individual was going to call off, so there was a miscommunication because the pizza was delivered at his request. Not because he was forced to or asked or anything. It was his request to the jail administration to buy that for the officers. At 11:30, when the individual was supposed to show up for work and didn't, they thought that they believed, again, the miscommunication was they were adequately fed, because normally they would go in and open up the officer dining hall and provide that stuff for them. There's no violation. They were fed and people ate. I mean, and again, there's not a contractual right to eat. There's you have a contractual right to a break. There's other vending machines. I realize that might not be what you want to eat sometimes, but someone who constantly misses lunch and has to go to the vending machines, you get overweight like I am, but he was not in any way forced to buy that food.
No, I understand that, like, the way he explained it was he wasn't forced. It was that if he didn't buy that pizza, there was no food for the officers to eat in the cafeteria.
That's not correct. I mean, again, factually, he asked for morale for his officers, as he puts it all the time, when he asked to buy that. So, and he got that permission. So that would have been, you know, depending on when it got delivered, it would have been in excess of any food. When the food vendor employee didn't show up, but again, there was other options available for them to eat. They also, some officers bring their food in, some eat the other. They didn't have what they normally have. But again, I don't think anyone went without food. But normally, under normal circumstances, Warren, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
So normally what would happen is this. So as Mr. Pilarski stated, Mr. Engler asked for permission prior to knowing this individual is coming to our work. But the thing you need to know is if Mr. Engler wasn't approved to buy the pizza and that Summit individual did not report to work, that captain would have called the Summit manager, hey, your employee didn't come to work, you need to get somebody in, and the manager would have come in. But since the captain saw they had plenty of pizza there was no need to call the Summit manager to bring somebody in because they had food there.
Okay, and so is that the same procedure for if they don't send somebody to help prepare the incarcerated individual's food?
If they don't have, they will call people in to come in to feed the incarcerated individual's food. They're there to feed, to see when somebody comes in for that.
Is there ever a time when the menu deviation is because of something Summit did or did not do?
I can't answer that right now, Ms. Hallam. I don't know that right now.
Okay, then one last thing is you mentioned you sent me the name of the dietitian, but I've just been doing stuff all day. What was the name?
I did not send you the name. You asked for it, and I do have the name.
Thank you.
Amy Cabal, K-U-B-A-L.
And Amy is a Summit employee?
She's the Summit dietitian. That's all I know.
Okay, so then yes. And you will request her to be here and tell her that we all want her here?
I will ask Summit to have her here next
Wanted to clarify.
meeting.
Can I suggest, rather than to just ask her to come, if there's some questions that we want to prepare beforehand that she could address and maybe present to us? Because leaving it open-ended, I feel like
Oh, sure.
could go in a lot of different directions.
Absolutely, I like that, thanks.
And I have a question for Warden Harper if you're finished, Bethany.
I just had one more. Could you email us any weekly any substitutions that are made to the posted menu?
That motion was already.
That was a motion that we all voted on. This is an individual request of Warden Harper. Is that something that you could do for us?
I think the board's already stated that, right?
What?
I think the board's already stated for us to do that.
No.
The request has been made, the motion was not approved. What is your next question?
My question was about uniforms. I just wanted to know what the status is of that. We were handed several complaints, and I just wanted to know what the situation is that's going on with uniforms.
It's a supply and demand. So when the vendor gets the supplies in, they'll give it to our officers.
I have some further information on the one because I did, based on the complaints we received and worked with purchasing. I can tell you that I believe it was as of 5/6, we got all the outstanding uniform the undelivered uniforms for 2022 and 2021, and I might have my figures backwards, but it was about 88% in 2022 that wasn't delivered, about 82% for 2021, and I might have those backwards, but of the 20-some percent that was undelivered, in each case, it was a specific shirt or shirts, so that would, to me, kind of go with what they've said. It's a supply and demand because it was all the same type of shirt. It was all made by the same company.
Gotcha.
The large majority were short sleeve shirts. Other things that were still sending were like socks, shoes, which wouldn't prevent them or wouldn't be necessary. I mean, it's part of their uniform, but you know, nothing that would prevent them from doing their job or be a safety and security issue or something like that. In fact, most of the orders, like I said, other than short sleeve shirts from two particular companies, those are the only things outstanding. We saw, again, no contractual violation. You know, before I just go and deviate from a contract bidder and try to go to someone else, which is allowable under certain circumstances, we couldn't find any of the specifications of the contract were actually violated. Yes, they were slow in getting some stuff, but it was a smaller percentage than what, you know, we were led to believe originally.
Thank you.
Chief Deputy Warden.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you get a promotion.
So, So I'm going to take a little bit of this presentation here, and I just want to talk about the 11 individuals that we have in our cadet program. So we do have 11 individuals in our cadet program at this time, and they are in the OJT process. And we're still continuing to try to recruit to get, you know, our employee vacancies filled, not just correctional officers, but all of our vacancies filled.
Hi, I'll be giving the health report on behalf of Dr. Brinkman. The infection rate testing for COVID-19 for incarcerated individuals, the total number of incarcerated individuals tested for COVID-19 during May 2022 was 2,630. Of those, 148, equivalent to 6%, were found to be positive. There are currently 110 incarcerated individuals presently positive in the facility with 0 hospitalizations for COVID-19. We have had an overall positivity rate of 4.3% at the Allegheny County Jail since the first diagnosed case of incarcerated individual on April 6, 2020. In regards to employees, throughout the pandemic, we have had 281 staff report positive results as of June 1st. We presently have 12 individuals who continue through their recovery process and have not yet returned to work. Vaccination updates as it applies to COVID-19 for incarcerated individuals. In total, thus far, the Allegheny County Jail has supported the vaccination of incarcerated individuals by providing over 2,698 total doses thus far. On site, we have continued to store Pfizer, Moderna, and the Janssen & Janssen vaccine. Last month, we reported that we had 647 individuals who had received their full series. This month, we have 592, which is 38% of incarcerated individuals that have received their full series. This is down 9% from last month. Since May 5th, 36 doses have been administered, and we have a multi-day vaccine clinic is scheduled for next week. In regards to medications for opioid use disorder and the expansion of these efforts, the jail continues to provide medication-assisted treatment for opioid disorder and alcoholism by offering medications including naltrexone and vitriol for the treatment of alcoholism and opioid disorder, and Suboxone and Sublocade for the treatment of opioid use disorder. During the month of May, there were 23 individuals prescribed oral naltrexone, and we did not have any vitriol injections for the month of May. During the month of May, 102 individuals were treated with Suboxone, and 14 individuals were treated with Sublocade. The jail continues in its contract expansion with Tediso, its methadone provider, and is actively developing the implementation of the methadone service for individuals currently taking methadone. We have developed a process flowchart for the program, and we continue to discuss staffing responsibilities and recruitment. Tediso is actively recruiting for one nurse coordinator who is an RN and functions as a case manager, one CRNP, and one data entry specialist. Tediso hiring for these positions will bring us one step closer to implementation and expanding of the methadone treatment in the facility. Torrance commitments and admissions. During the month of May, 6 persons were admitted and transferred to Torrance State Hospital. 1 returned from Torrance, and 2 are pending return from Torrance to the facility, and 2 were released from Torrance to the community programs. In May, 7 new persons were committed to Torrance State Hospital, and currently there are 14 patients are awaiting admission to Torrance State Hospital, with the longest wait since March 18th. At the last jail oversight board meeting, it was requested that we report on Tier 4 and Tier 5 reporting. We established a procedure to record this information in our tech care systems as in a reportable manner. This was implemented mid-month, and we do not have a complete data set to report at this time, but this information should be in its entirety for us to be able to report at the next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Howden?
Okay, so my first question is about, so Officer Engler mentioned Narcan training, but also, and this is something I heard a lot from officers, like when I'm in the jail talking to them, fentanyl aerosolizing is a myth. So you cannot like come into contact with fentanyl that's just up in the air and you overdose. And I hear a lot of the officers talking about that. They think that. And I'm worried about the safety of people who maybe are overdosing in the jail, that the officers are more worried that they might be exposed to fentanyl than actually like rushing to assist. And so I'm wondering if there's any sort of fentanyl education that's included in the Narcan training?
Not at this time. I don't recall any fentanyl education with the Narcan training.
It currently is directed towards the administration and the treatment, but that's absolutely something that we can look into and provide.
Yeah, I tried fixing them myself when I was there and talking to them and telling them about it. But if you could include that in somehow in part of their training, I think it'd be really helpful, if not just for information, but for the safety of the incarcerated folks. So I would appreciate that. The second thing is, how many people are waiting for commitment to Torrance right now? Can you say that?
14 are waiting admission to Torrance.
Okay, and how many are waiting on a BAU determination or competency hearing?
I don't have that information with me at this time.
Okay. Do you know how many folks are waiting to see JRS?
I do not have that information with me.
Okay, can we just start bringing this information to us? Because I know it seems every meeting we're asking for it. And so if you just like came ahead of time with it, I think that would.
Can you repeat both of them so that I have it exactly?
Yeah, how many people are waiting for a BAU determination and how many people are waiting for a competency hearing? And then my next question is, how many days since the last jail oversight board meeting of the month was there a period of time without at least one medical staff person in intake? And that could be there wasn't medical for an hour, there wasn't somebody medical for the entire second shift. How many days in the past month would you say there was at least a period of time?
We cannot answer that at this time.
And why is that?
I don't have the information in front of me.
Okay, we talk about it every meeting. Can you please bring that information to subsequent meetings?
So what are you requesting at the next meeting, Ms. Howell?
I am requesting how many days there was a period of time that there was no medical staff at intake.
I will provide that, but I'm not going to provide it in a public setting, because that's talking about staffing. So I can provide it, but not in a public setting.
Right, but you do understand that we've talked about this before, that staffing is not protected for executive session. Like, that's not something that you can say, we're saving this for executive session. You talk about staffing when you talk about the hiring, when you talk about what you're doing to try to retain employees, when you're talking about what you're trying to do employee of the month, you talk about staffing, but it seems that every time this board asks questions about staffing, that's when you don't want to answer it.
Ms. Hallam, I'm not going to keep reporting about staffing where it could be an issue with the safety of the jail. So that information, I'm not going to give in a public setting. I will give it in an executive session.
But we already get this wonderful report every month that talks about all the vacancies, so you're already giving us this staffing information. I'm just wondering about the vacancies in intake.
And providing that every day to the board in a public setting, I feel would jeopardize the safety of the institution.
Okay. And I think that's it. I only have one last question, and I say this for you because I feel like this is kind of maybe more in your wheelhouse since you're giving the health reports and stuff. But so my understanding was when I was trying to like look and figure out about, you know, HIPAA and all this, hey, everything's HIPAA, we can't talk about it. Hey, everything's a potential lawsuit, we can't talk about it. So there are actually exceptions to HIPAA, and one of those exceptions is for oversight agencies. And so I'm wondering if you are specifically familiar with this part of HIPAA, or maybe this is a Mr. Biondo question. And it specifically says, I have it here in my notes, so it says what a health agency is, and you know, we're including under that. And it says that they're authorized by law to oversee the healthcare system, whether public or private, or government programs in which health information is necessary to determine compliance. And so we are the oversight body. And so what I'm worried is that we are not able to do our job of making sure that the jail is in compliance, making sure that the health and well-being of the people incarcerated in the jail is taken care of when we are blocked off from this information. So I was wondering if that's something that's ever been discussed with you, like the exceptions to HIPAA and how this board actually quite likely is an exception to the HIPAA protections. Please, thank you.
I mean, I'm aware of the exception. I don't know specifically that. I don't know whether or not it applies to jail oversight board. I had not considered that. That's something we can certainly look into. What I believe that applies to are investigations like police investigations, the Attorney General's office, something like the District Attorney's office, institutions like that. Those are the institutions that I believe that are, I mean, those are exempted under HIPAA. That's what I believe that applies to. I don't have an opinion. I don't know whether it applies to the jail oversight board or not.
Okay, can you bring an opinion on that to us?
I'm not going to commit to bringing an opinion on that.
Okay, why?
Number one, I'm not the one that's normally here, and I would defer to Mr. Bacharach. And
okay.
I cannot speak for him.
That's the best no answer I've gotten yet, and I will ask him for that. Thank you very, very much. And that is good. I'm good.
I do want to point something out, just for point of clarification. When we talk about competency, request for competency, that is not a function of the jail. That is done by either a district judge or a judge in the Court of Common Pleas. So that is more of a court function and is not their responsibility, nor are they a part of that process. You also made you had a question about competency, evaluations, and I forget what the other one was.
The BAU determination, the behavioral.
Right, but again, those are all functions of agencies and have very little to do with the jail. If and when, I just want to be clear that if and when those requests are made, it comes from a judge and or the district attorney's office because a person is being considered for mental health court or some alternative resolution path in the judicial the court process. So I just want to be clear that it's not the jail that is making that request or has any input or involvement in that process. I just want to make sure we understand that.
Oh, I understand that, and I appreciate you saying that. It was just my understanding that the jail has information on any holds that folks have that are preventing them from being released, and I know that there are folks who are being detained, waiting on certain things like that, going to Torrance, seeing JRS, getting their competency hearings, and so that's why I thought maybe the jail would have those records.
But that's what you said, JRS, and that's my point. JRS is not a function of the jail. A request will be made because of a defense attorney is saying, hey, is my client eligible to be involved with your program? It has nothing to do with the jail. That is because of a defense attorney's request and/or a judge's request. So all they're doing is housing the person. They're not involved with that process at all.
So are you saying the jail doesn't know that that's why they're being housed there, is because they're waiting that?
They may or may not know, but the appropriate person would be either the attorney or pretrial services if there's a request being made at the beginning of the process.
Right, I'm just not on the attorney oversight board, so I can only ask the jail.
All right.
Thanks.
I have just a couple questions. So this has to do with staffing, and I'm just curious because we heard from one of the speakers, how many staff did you guys lose to the vaccine mandate?
We don't know that right off the top of our head, Mr.
Okay, I'm curious about that. And then, listening to the, about the 14 trainees that you had and half of them have already left, has there been any kind of exit process or any kind of observation or looking into the reasons for their departure?
We do try to engage the employees when they're departing to conduct an exit interview. Our HR generalists attempt to do that. We've even, the other day, went to an officer on the pod to engage him when we got notification of resignation. Again, we can't force him to participate, so what information we do get, we do have that.
Okay, because I would be really interested in that, and about a year ago, as John Kenstowitz had stated, we did vote as a board that we should be conducting exit interviews with departing staff members. I have a great interest in doing this because staffing is such a crisis right now, and I think that everybody could admit that from all angles, so I would like to revisit that in some way. So if you don't mind, for next time, letting us know how many people that you lost for vaccination. And I do agree that the reasons for leaving, that necessarily doesn't, we might not want to discuss that in an open forum, but maybe there's some kind of summary or something that you can share with the oversight board. So that's something that we could look into further.
Ms. Hallam.
Yeah, just two things. So first of all, Tracy, there was a news article whenever the deadline happened that actually gave that number about how many staff members were lost through the vaccine. I'll find it and send it to you. And then second of all, I already have 10 or 11 staff members who have recently departed the jail who have reached out to me and wanted to talk, not to the full board, but to a small group. So I'll connect with you and we can do those. Okay?
Chief.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned.